Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us. Nick Barris, along with News Channel 5 legal analyst Nick Leonardo, talking this morning about the George Floyd case aftermath and moving forward on this. Just wanted to ask you, with regard to the fact that we have a very big case coming up, a lot of different facts involved with it, does the verdict in the George Floyd case, is it good or bad in your mind for Andrew Delke, the decommissioned police officer?
You know, I think if I'm Mr. Delke, I mean, I'm obviously very nervous after seeing what happened yesterday. I mean, I think the stakes, you know, are changing a little bit. Now, I have to say that I don't know the other defense team in Minnesota, but Mr. Delke has he's got David Rabin, okay? He's got one of the best criminal defense attorneys that's ever really practiced law in this state. So he's got, you know, good lawyers. And again, you know, you start thinking about, you know, did Judge Watkins make the right decision to leave the trial here, to not go anywhere else and pick a jury, or to not bring him in? But I guess the question also becomes is, you know, this is a movement all over America, right? What we're seeing. And so
well, can you explain then, why do you think he should be more worried after this verdict? What is it that he would see and say, wow, that's not good for me?
A conviction, okay? I mean, and the fact that we've seen he may be the second police officer convicted of murder in America. I think there's been 4 or 5 trials, and before him, I think there had been 1. You know, don't quote me on that, but I think I've read that somewhere. So, you know, there has been a change in the last year with the Black Lives Matter movement. There's been a lot of reports on policing, and again, in America, we've, you know, had this difference. We no longer have this difference of opinion. We've been having a difference of facts, and now with these videos that are coming out, there can't really be any more, you know, difference in facts. But with that said, his case is completely distinguishable from Mr. Floyd's case, and there's a statute on point from 1985 that allows police to use deadly force on unarmed fleeing felons if they're trying to protect a third party. So that's going to weigh into this as well. It'll be interesting to see if that's part of a jury charge. Yeah,
it's interesting that you said the jury was chosen in Minneapolis and they came back with a verdict in 8 hours or 12 hours. In this case, Judge Monty Watkins, despite the request from the defense, has
several requests,
has refused to bring in a jury from outside or change the venue. Says, and I can see these arguments, his decision that this happened in Davidson County. Folks in Davidson County should decide the fate of this case, and that's what he's trying to do. But I see this case so much different in that there is more wiggle room for different points of view in the Delke case, in my opinion, than there was in the Floyd case. I can't watch the Floyd video and not think Chauvin was wrong, okay? Period. Not a whole lot of debate there. Now, you may want to bring in, you know, what level of crime he should have been convicted of, but that was just wrong that long. Whereas the Delke case, yeah, there are arguments. That's why I've said from the beginning, by not bringing a jury in, I think we're set up for a very good possibility of a hung jury. I think we're going to have members on this jury that are going to have feel it was a bad shoot, and I'm going to have others say that officer was doing his job.
Well, and obviously, in order to get this jury by July, they're going to have to go about it in a different way because they're going to probably have to go through 300 or 400 people, you know, and so I don't know if they're doing written questionnaires initially or anything to kind of to narrow the pool. But right now, our jury assembly room can only handle 60 jurors brought in per day and have them socially distanced, and you know they would run through those, you know, fairly quick, you know, because they have to find people that everyone's heard of the case, and it's okay to have heard of the case, but you can't have your mind made up. And so I'm sure that there's probably already a process in motion to get a jury by July, or to at least narrow it down so that we could bring in 60 people and from them find at least 14 that could be, you know.
Yeah, maybe even bring in more alternates. Can they do that just in case?
I've never seen one that has more than 2 alternates.
Okay, I would say more alternates only, especially if the worst case scenario would be this trial's midway through and several jurors get COVID. Can you imagine? Or something like that. That just stops everything. And so,
well, and I would think you want vaccinated people too, to some degree.
I wonder if they'll be asking that during vote.
Well, I mean, I would think that would be.
And it's up to them if they choose they want to share that personal medical history with you.
No, I mean, I would agree with that, but that's the last thing you want is to have to try this case twice.
Yeah, boy, which could happen if there's a hung jury. Let's go to Tom next. Tom, good morning. Hi, Tom. Are you there, Tom? Hello? Looks like we had him for a second and lost him. We'll see if we can get a clearer signal. Let's go to Ray. Ray, good morning. Hi, Ray.
How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind, Ray?
Yes, I was wondering about the way the police actually serve people. Why do they when they pull over a young man or whoever they pull over, why don't they just, instead, the people have fear of losing their job, going to jail and everything, why can't the police just actually just say, listen, you got a warrant. Here go a ticket. Every time I ticket you, your warrant is going to be more money, and then once we ticket you a few times, we're going to arrest you, and it's going to be more to get out of jail, instead of putting this fear in people, because once people get pulled over, they know they're going to lose their job and everything. That's why people is fearful. That's why they run. It's a simple answer. That's all they have to do is say, listen, you got a warrant. We're not going to arrest you right now. We're going to ticket you so you can go to court and settle it. Then people won't be all afraid of the police. It won't be a big deal. It'll be more...
Well, sure.
It'd be more constructive to, you know.
Are you African American?
Yes, and I have been kneed in the groin at the police department in Nashville for no reason. He pulled me over and told me to turn around, and he kneed me in the groin.
Okay. Well, listen, and his personal experience is, you know, shaping the way he views it. Look, what you have to say is, I mean, it's case by case when you pull individuals over. It's a very difficult job for law enforcement officers. But if you pull someone over for, say, a traffic violation, run their plate, and it comes back that they're wanted on a criminal warrant, okay, you've got to deal with it at that moment there. And I'm sorry if someone realizes I've been caught speeding and I have a criminal warrant, I'm going to lose my job and maybe go to jail, whether you're black, white, yellow, whatever. Under the law, the police have to do their job. Okay? So, I mean, you get yourself in trouble. Now, you can go to the periphery, you know, when things start escalating, how to better handle situations like that. But it's tough. Yeah, I mean, you can't just blanket statement like what he suggests. I wish we could, but different cases. And some people have more serious offenses, and they're going to have to face the music.
Well, and I think, you know, Ray raises a good point, and it's something that I've thought about quite a bit. I mean, I think that our elected officials, our legislature, our United States Congress, they need to address the policing reform issue the same way we've addressed the COVID pandemic. They need to put that much resource in this, because this is certainly a crisis. And I think part of the answer may lie in the initial interaction between police and citizens in a traffic stop. And maybe we change the parameters of traffic stops. Now, to say, you know, traffic stops are a good thing from law enforcement perspective, because they do find people, maybe 30% or so or thereabouts, that have outstanding warrants. Okay, it's another way to serve warrants. But again, you know, maybe we reevaluate the encounters that we have with police in traffic stops. Maybe it's, you know, maybe there has to be a crash or an injury, or you have to be going so much over the speed limit, or some kind of, you know, threatening some kind of public safety before there's just an actual, you know, traffic stop.
You almost have to step back and start from scratch. Nick, if you get pulled over by a police officer, I've been pulled over a few times, okay? Whatever, traffic violations. I get pulled over. Do you have any concerns? I know I'm going to get a ticket.
My heart's racing.
Yeah,
I don't move my hands from 10 and 2.
And I try to cooperate, but when I get pulled over by a police officer, I do not feel any other anxiety than the fact that my wife's going to yell at me for getting another ticket. Okay?
Really? You don't get nervous?
No, I mean,
I've always gotten
nervous.
nervous.
I used to. Maybe I've been pulled over so many times. Not a lot, folks. But I mean, it doesn't get. What I'm trying to make the point is, I have some friends who happen to be black who tell me when they get pulled over, they're terrified. And it seems like folks don't understand in general. They say, just cooperate. And they've tried to explain to me, Nick, the reason we don't always, or we perceive that some don't cooperate is with the police commands, is because we've seen others cooperate and they still get shot. Are you just going to go along with someone when you're terrified of them? And it's a whole perception thing that sometimes you have to step out of your own personal comfort zone and try to put yourself in someone else's shoes to try to understand why they believe. Now, that's not excusing. Of course, you should try to comply with an officer's commands, but try to understand why there are some out there who are going to be very scared to comply and maybe not be so quick to do everything they say, whereas you and I, look, yeah, I'm going to do whatever he says, because I have no concern he's going to do anything to good old Nick Barris, not because I'm on TV, because I'm a white guy.
Well, but if my heart's racing when I get pulled over and I'm nervous and I haven't done anything wrong, I may be speeding or didn't use a blinker or come to a complete stop, I can't imagine what it would be like to be a young African-American male that gets pulled over.
Yeah, so it's tough to just try to put yourself in their shoes. Again, idea. So I'm just saying some way to put everyone more at ease, because these officers are just trying to do their job.
And let's be clear too that all police aren't bad. We're not saying that at all.
Not at all. Most of them are good, but the problem is it becomes a situation when they have to do their job and they run into all this other periphery stuff that's going on in people's minds and their perception.
When Reverend Sharpton this morning was on TV talking about that not all police are bad, so we want to be clear that we're not saying not even close.
It's a handful that aren't, but then they all can be painted with the same brush. That's my concern.
Right.
Is the Chauvin conviction, unfortunately, how does that apply to all police? And that is not fair. Not even close.
And they want bad officers out too. Police don't want bad officers around them. It gives them a bad name.
Well, and that's why we saw the police chief testifying against another officer. How often do you see that?
That's the first I've seen.
Yeah. Let's take a call from Joe, I believe. Joe, good morning. Hi, Joe.
Good morning, Nick. And Nick,
good morning.
I can tell you two things, and I'll get off here. First of all, I wouldn't be a policeman right now for no amount of money, because if you are encounter somebody with a gun, like Mr. Delke had a gun when he jumped out of the car. He fell down and dropped the gun. He picked the gun up and then kept running. If I was a policeman right now and I encountered that same situation, I wouldn't chase him. I'd just let him go. I'd just call it in and say, well, he's got a gun and he runs so forth. He went this direction, and let him go. I wouldn't take the chance on spending my life in jail.
Well, and he makes a point. You wonder, it'd be nice to have some officers on who could speak candidly to it about how this changes the way they approach both traffic stops to pursue. And I think you can make the argument, if you stop someone or you're trying to stop someone for expired tags and they take off, okay, you got their tag number, let them go. Get them later. You know where they live, whatever. It's a tag. And if it escalates to something more, I mean, there's got to be a certain degree of judgment on that. Now, the Delke case, he had a gun. And if he's running, I mean, he could pose a risk to anyone he encounters moving forward. All those things you have to think about.
Yeah, but I would have to agree with Joe and his sentiment on that. I mean, I've thought about this too. If I was a police officer and something like that happened, I mean, I may just call it in, unless there was some imminent threat. There was somebody's shooting at someone else or about to shoot at someone else. I'm with Joe. We have helicopters. We have GPS. I mean, I might just call that in.
Listen, we've got more calls coming in, and they're going to miss you because you've got an early court date. You've got a split after this break, so we're going to let you go. But, Nick, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you joining us. And, yeah, we've got a lot. By the way, we talk about the Delke case going gavel to gavel in July. But, as you know, you and I will be together starting, first week in June for the Joe Clyde Daniels trial, finally. A lot of these trials, like one of the people said, Delke and Hambrick happened in July of 2018, okay? And same thing, April 2018 for Joe Clyde. Wheels of justice turn slow. Well, especially with COVID.
And I can't believe we're almost here in June, isn't that? It's just time has flown, and we will be doing this in no time.
A lot of people will be watching those trials. Nick, thanks for coming on. We'll see you soon, my friend. Great job as always. We'll take a break, and I'll be back. Stay on hold where you are. More of your comments and questions here as we make our way through the final segment right after this.